He panted, wooden feet slapping against the stone floor as he went further down the cavern. The lantern's flame blipped and bobbed as he traveled further down, flickering in the darkness from the speed of his steps. He looked around, lost in a daze of panic and fear. He had no idea why Tobias's power hadn't worked earlier. Everything was so very clearly wrong. He knew he could pick himself up and keep going like Lucien said. He knew that. But moving forward only made his legs itch with the need to run away, far into the darkness to never be seen again. Michaela? Michaela! Leading me on a wild goose chase. What? No, I'm not angry with you. It's simply that you never told me things would be so difficult. He paused, staring off into the inky pitch. He could see the light of Michaela's lantern bobbing slightly in the distance, breaking up the shadows with its orange glow. You didn't know either? What do you know? Nothing isn't a good enough answer. Look, I'm sorry for being terse. This is all very... I only want everyone to be all right. I swear I'll have it done. Michaela? The light turns, revealing the woman's face in the dark. Her pallor was pale, almost like a ghost. Her blue eyes glanced back to the darkness once, quick and hurried before she turned back to Key. Key? What are you doing here? There's no time to explain. You need to hurry! Michaela's eyes widen and she glances up before dashing down the tunnel, sweat dripping down her face. Key tails behind her, both of them bolting across the stone floor. In the distance, they hear a strangled sobbing.
Camelia, please. I can't let you die too. Not along with Mom. Not. You were always the one to save me, so please.
No one is going to die today. As they get closer, they see Lucien hunched over his sister, sobbing into her chest. She's breathing, albeit shallowly. Michaela gasps, running over and bending down next to her. The younger man moves to the side, holding his head as he convulses with sobs. Shit, what happened?
It's my fault. That sinkhole opened up and we fell in. We tried to get out. She fell back and then the vines. I'm so sorry. If I didn't hesitate, she'd be okay.
He stood nearby, rubbing his arm as he looked away from the scene. Nurse turned her gaze towards him, her expression calm and collected. Key, I need you to spawn a mortar and pestle. I don't think the herbs that Lucien picked the other day will work, so if you could also spawn some chamomile. For some reason, it's not working.
Michaela's eyes widened as she jolted slightly.
She then shook her head, smiling up at the boy as she shifted her position next to Camellia. I guess it's up to me then. He watched as she took Camelia's jacket off. Now that he could fully see her, he finally noticed just how scraped up she was. Puncture wounds were all over her body, scrapes and tears, blood dripping down her arms. Although these wounds were already closing, as if she was using her own magic in her sleep. It was much too slow, though. Michaela sighed with relief, pulling out a roll of bandages from Lucien's bag. The younger man huddled nearby, his head buried into his knees as he shivered. She glanced at him, eyebrows arching with concern.
It's okay. You already know how good of a nurse I am, right? I know.
Lucien, this isn't because of you. You were stressed. Of course you would hesitate. The man looks to the side, tears pricking at his eyes. She lets out a sigh, reaching over and patting him on the shoulder. She then rummages around the bag again, looking for first aid supplies. The woman gets to work on fully treating the wounds, dabbing the darkening cuts with a cloth before bandaging them.
I can help.
She looks up at him, then nods, beckoning him forward. Soon, Amelia was completely wrapped up, the white gauze flowering crimson. Michaela let out a breath, about to put the jacket back on her, but she paused. Her finger traced down the lining, expression just out of Key's view. Her shoulders slacked down, clutching the article of clothing close. Michaela? The maid jolted, putting the jacket over her friend quickly. Yes? Key glanced over at Lucien, who was now curled up on the ground, resting his eyes. Seeing that he was asleep, Key looked up hesitantly. The lantern guttered in the dark, lighting up both of their faces. Were you talking to someone earlier? The light cast on her face, making her glasses shine glaring white. She looked back into the lantern with a blank stare. I talk to myself when I'm thinking sometimes. You know, you don't have to keep a secret from Camellia. She seems to really care about. She doesn't need another problem to add to her already full plate. It has nothing to do with her. I can manage it myself. Key furrows his brows. He then looks over at Lucien, observing him as he slept. Is Lucien one of the things on her plate? She's overprotective. Why? He doesn't seem to like it. Because she doesn't want to lose him again. He was being honest when he said she was always the one to save him. I think he's ashamed of that fact. Camellia twitches in her sleep, pulling the jacket close and shivering. Her friend put a hand on hers, squeezing gently as she continued. After the Di Perenne family took me in, Lucien was finally beginning to open up. He wanted to get to know his father more. I guess having more people around him made him more confident, but... What? A lot was going on under the surface. Things that neither she or I could see. It was like he was a sea in a raging storm. And then, one day, deep within the Sea of Dreams, Camellia stands, viewing memories like she was the surveyor of a panopticon. She squeezes her eyes shut, the sound of waves and scent of saline hitting her senses. And when she opened them, her legs were moving as she walked down the sandy pathway of coastal Rosalind's beach, her fingers tracing reeds next to her. Her brows furrowed as she looked around. Lucien? Lucien, you know you're not supposed to be here. Come on, Luca, you're going to get hurt.
Oh, honestly, a young man your age should know how to swim.
Camellia freezes in the middle of the pathway.
Do you want the other children to make fun of you? Come now. You don't want that, do you? Why not go further out?
Her previously leisurely gait sped into a bolt as she took off down the sand, panic showing plain on her face as her hair fell out of its bun, bits of green dangling to its side as she ran. Skidding to a halt, she saw Lucien floundering in the water, sputtering as he did so. Her father stood in front of him, crossing his arms with an unamused expression. The man turned back, long spring green hair whipping around as he gave his daughter a grin.
Hello, Asta. I was just...
With a growl, she runs straight past him. Cutting into the current, she hoists Lucien up onto her shoulders, struggling to get him out of the water. She finally crawls out onto the sand, letting out a choked sob as she tries to express the water from his lungs. She panted with anxiety, pushing on his chest frantically.
Oh, are we not saying hello?
With a few more pumps, the boy coughed up seawater, eyes fluttering before shutting completely. His complexion was still deathly pale, lips going blue.
Asta?
Shut up! Just shut up! Mephisto stares down at her with a cold, golden gaze. She struggles to wake her younger brother up, her actions moved by desperation and fear. What's happening? The water is gone! He should be able to—
Well, he's probably poisoned himself on the salt, dear. That's a shame.
Her head whips around to look at him, tears streaming down her face. He rolls his eyes, sighing as he shakes his head. Is this nothing to you?
What? He'll live.
With a flourish of his wrist and a snap of his fingers, Lucien's color returns, his face slowly becoming lifelike again.
See? All better.
That's not the point! He almost died, and you're standing there treating it like it's a mere inconvenience!
That's because it is. Could you imagine what sort of favoritism I could get accused of for simply even reviving him? Why, all my children would be clamoring for the same treatment. Of course, it's an inconvenience to me.
The world tilts. Camellia sits next to her mother in Lucien's room. Marigold leans forward in a rocking chair, looking at the bed. Nestled in it was Lucien. He was hunched over slightly, his eyes downcast. Droplets hit the window outside, pitter-pattering lightly before transitioning into a volley of rain. The boy clutched his blanket close, shivering from the cold.
What did your father say to you? He didn't say anything.
Bambino, it's okay to say he won't know.
He didn't say anything. I swear. I just wanted to try swimming, and he offered to teach me.
That's not true!
Camellia?
It's okay. The older woman offers her a pained smile, squeezing her hand gently. She then bends down to Lucien and gives him a kiss on the forehead. You can tell me when you're ready, okay, Angioletto? He smiles back at her weakly, shoulder-length hair hanging over his face. Camellia looks at him, then back at Marigold, who pulls away from their embrace. I'm going to talk to your older sister outside. Remember to eat your soup. With that, Marigold ushers her daughter out of the room, quietly shutting the door behind them. The two walk down the hallway, wordless. Then suddenly, Camellia speaks up, stopping mid-between the hall and the stairs. Why are you just letting it go like that? Her mother stops as well, looking away with shame. Mama! You know it's not right. You can't keep letting him—
I agree, but fighting against him is like trying to fight a raging gale. I try my best to protect you both, but...
Mama!
I should not be telling you this.
Mama, I can help. Please, point me in a direction, and I will do everything I can to make things right.
If there ever comes a time where I'm not here, protect Lucien.
She looks at her mother, eyes widening.
When you're not here?
But... Yes, Mama. I will. Her mother smiles at her, warm chocolate brown eyes crinkling. But soon, that warm gaze dissipated, replaced with lines of chalk dust. Sweat dripped on Camelia's brow, and she reaches out, trying to catch her mother in a failed attempt to keep her. But as always, the woman falls to the floor in chalk dust and paint like a cruel joke. Camellia lets out a sob, dropping to her knees before her eyes finally snap open. She is awake again, and most importantly, alive. A pressure is light on her body. She squints, then turns to see that Michaela had curled up on the floor next to her, the woman's head resting on her chest. Amelia smiles, tucking her long blonde hair behind an ear. Mia carissima. She looks down to see the bandages on her hands, then lets out a breath. You're such a hard worker. What would I do without you? She then sees Key sitting next to Lucien with a contemplative look, pulling his knees close. Key? Hi. Do you want to talk? I'd like that.